Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name's Karla Drenner, and I'm sorry that my voice is a little hoarse. My partner and I, Candace, as I shared with several of you earlier, went to the track today. That's really not unusual, but what was unusual was that on our last lap, she started running faster, and I could not let her win. And so I started running faster, and I thought I was going to throw up. And so she slowed down, and I just thought, oh, I beat her. And then when we got home, you know what she said to me? I let you win. So I'm a little winded from our 3-mile run where I thought I won. So thank you, honey, for letting me win today. I'm originally from Charleston, West Virginia, and I think that should tell you a little bit about what my background was like. I grew up in the city, but the city is really not like a city. Charleston has 66,000 people. I was thinking today, to all of you fathers, happy Father's Day. My father died, I turned 50 this year, and he died when he was 48. So I'm older than my father at this moment in my life. And I was thinking what I might share with you, part of my story was what it was like to come out to my dad, and how that was, well, that was challenging at best. My father was not a religious man, and as we were running, as I was trying to breathe out there today, I was thinking about the 12-page letter that my father wrote to me when he asked me, was I a homosexual? And I said yes, and he was taken aback by that. And then I said to him, well, but you asked me. And he said, but I didn't really think you'd answer me. And I said, well, if you shouldn't ask the question if you don't want to know the answer. And so he was a construction worker, and so he went off wherever he was, and he wrote me this 12-page letter of really lots of Bible stuff. Lots and lots of Bible stuff. And as I was coming back to the house today, I was thinking, gosh, I wish I could put my hands on that letter, because just to share parts of that with you all would be extremely interesting for me to revisit. But I can tell you that it had 6 Bible verses, you know, the 6 that they always talk about. He used all 6 of those. And I didn't even think he owned a Bible, but he said that he had gone to the library and done a great deal of research, which I thought was kind of funny, because his favorite place was the beer joint down the street. It wasn't the library, so he found the library somewhere. So my background is a lot different than many of you that are sitting in the audience, many of you kids that are sitting in the audience today. I did not grow up with a great deal of love and support for being gay. I'm old, you know, I'm 50. I think about, I lost today, okay, in my race, not in my political race, but my partner beat me, so that makes me old in my mind. I have progressive lenses now. That's a big difference, let me tell you. You wake up one morning and it's like you're looking over your glasses, and you finally go and you say, I can't really see. They're like, you should have been here 10 years ago. So So I did not grow up with a lot. I grew up a Southern Baptist in the hills of West Virginia, where being a homosexual is like being a Catholic. It's not very warm and accepting. My mother was one of 12 kids, and my uncles were Baptist ministers, and I was the homosexual. That didn't come with a lot of love and support. I left home at 17 out of shame. I never came back. I went to high school. As soon as I could get out, and I mean, literally and figuratively get out, and left, and did not go back home again for many, many years because of the lack of acceptance from my family. It wasn't easy, which made me better, which made me stronger. I'm of the generation that nothing good ever comes without hard work. And I believe that's true. I have 2 doctorates and 2 masters. I went back, I looked at my grade cards the other day, and you know what I can tell you about high school? I was a straight C student. That was the only thing that was straight about me. I was a C student. I looked at my geometry grade. I used to joke with my mother, and it would be CD, CD. My nickname is Candy, so it was Candy Drenner, Candy Drenner, Candy Drenner. She never thought that was funny. My geometry teacher told me I would never do math. My undergraduate degree is in radiation physics. So I think that we can't define ourselves by who we are in high school. We go on and we live and we become who we want to be, not who people say that we can be. And I'm a perfect example of what that means. I was first elected in Georgia in 1999. I mean, what do you think about 1999? Some of you weren't even born in 1999. But in 1999, who was president? It was George Bush. This was the Bush years. I tried to get a security clearance under the Reagan years. I know you're like, what does that mean? Well, I ended up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee in a little room. I swear I'm not making this up. I do make stuff up, but I'm not making this up. In a little room like 10 by 10 with a little light bulb, right? And they asked me 26 questions. I was going to work for a uranium enrichment plant where they make bombs. And the first question was, what happens? Do you frequently leave places that don't pay your water bill? That was like question number 1. Because they follow me all across the country, gathering intel on me. And then the last question was, are you a lesbian? I sat there, I said, not at this moment. Because I was told that, you know what, if you don't get your security clearance, guess what, you get fired. But if they find out you're gay, if you tell them, guess what, you get fired. So back during the Reagan years, there was no don't ask, don't tell, it was don't say nothing at all. So 99 was just a little bit better than that. I was the first openly gay state elected person in the entire South. When I walked in the very first day, I had no idea what it was going to be like. All that love and light that was beaming at me. Come on now. That's a joke. There was not a lot of love and light beaming at me. People would not ride the elevators with me. I used to go to the prayer caucus meetings. Yes, we have prayer caucus because they have to have somebody to pray for, so I would show up. And they would want to know why I was there. And I would say, well, I'm here because I believe in God too. It took a very long time for them being my professional colleagues, to accept the fact that I was okay with who I am as a person. Because people want you to feel shame. And if you don't feel shame, guess what? They do not know what to do. They are totally taken aback if you are not shameful. And I'm not shameful. I may be shameful sometimes if I wear a black shoe and a brown shoe. Actually, it's black and blue shoes on occasion. Without the progressives, it's hard to match things up. That has happened. You would think that when the heels are like this, you would know. Some of the women in the audience have to relate to that.
Yes.
Then they ask you, did you get dressed in the dark? No, I actually took the shoes under the light. That makes it even worse, doesn't it? Those of you that aren't laughing, you have things to look forward to. Just wait. So it's not been an easy road. West Virginia, I understand there's the first out person running for state office in West Virginia for the General Assembly this year. This year in Georgia, there are 4 out candidates, including myself. This will be my 7th term. I know, I can't get over it myself. My 7th term. I looked up and I looked just like you when I first started. Just like you. Can I tell you that it's gotten easier? No, I think I've just gotten meaner. Okay, that part of that's true, part of it isn't true. I am pretty mean now. Mean in a political way, meaning that you learn to play the game a little bit more so after, this will be my 13th year. So I can, the sound went off, didn't it?
Yep.
That means I'm saying something I'm not supposed to. I forgot where I was at. I was being mean. Don't I look mean? Yeah, I am. Especially when it comes to cell phone tower issues, I can be really mean about that. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? Those of you that live in DeKalb County have an issue with putting cell phone towers on school property. This was the first year that I introduced a piece of gay legislation, and that was, you're thinking, after 10 years? Yeah, it took me 10 years because I believe that that's what they, my colleagues, were waiting for me to do, was to come in and do something where they could say, see, look, that's the only reason that she's here. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't involved in gay issues. It means that it was the first time that I championed a piece of gay legislation. It was a non-discrimination bill that added 4 very simple words to the Title VII legislation here in Georgia, that was sexual orientation and gender identity. And those 4 very simple words are extremely inflammatory. I can tell you that. I got 71 sponsors, including 12 Republicans. And believe it or not, if I would have dropped gender identity, I would have had more sponsors to the bill. So have I seen progress since 1999? Yes, I have seen a great deal of progress. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's not me in particular, it's just whoever. It could be, you know, Susie Q, that had been in the General Assembly for 12 years, that where people get to watch you and get to know you and like you. You know, politics is really about if they like you or not. I'm a smart person, so that means sometimes they don't like me because I'm smart. But I'm a moderate person. I'm a very issue-driven individual. And so I don't vote party ticket. I think now I have dual microphones. So what I do is I'm problematic for the Democrats to control, because the whips come around on most days and want to know how I'm going to vote, and I'm pretty opinionated about how I'm going to vote, and that is, I don't know because I haven't read the bill and I haven't listened to the debate yet. Oh, we'll put you down as maybe. So I'm an issue person, and I think that over the years that many people have realized that not only is she a lesbian, but she's smart, and I'm a person that will listen to both sides of the argument. So that, I believe, has served me well. And if it served me well, I believe that that served the gay community well. Because I'm not walked in there. I do like the equal signs. I have had an equal sign on my car, and I like parking it in between the deals, and and sometimes I take the pictures. I do have a sense of humor, but most of the time, my presence is what speaks about who I am as a person. And I like to just kind of share with you some of the stories. In the beginning it was hard because they were afraid of me. And every 2-year cycle, people come in, they're new electeds, and guess what? They're afraid of me too. Last session in particular, every session I have at least 1 or 2 of them that come up to me. Last session we were at an event, and believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I can do this, but when I'm at home, I'm quiet. She talks a lot. I don't. I'm faster than her. I just had a bad day today. Tomorrow I will beat you for real. I'll give you a head start. So this session, I was at an event, and I was just sitting by myself, eating some of the hors d'oeuvres and drinking a glass of wine. And one of the guys that sits behind me, right-wing conservative Tea Party guy, came over to me and he said, "Can I sit down with you?" And I said, "Sure." And I thought, sometimes I'm a little leery about what it is that they might say, so I have to, take a deep breath. And he said, "You're not anything like what I thought you'd be." I said, "Well, neither are you." But really, I didn't know who you were. I said, "Well, how did you know me?" And he said, "We all know you." I said, "I know, because I'm so pretty, right?" And he said, "Well, no. No, not that I'm so pretty." He said, "But, you probably are the most authentic person in this whole General Assembly." And I said, "Well, thanks, Sam. I appreciate you saying that." So, yes, they do know who the lesbian is before they get there. I think they have a meeting in advance to say, she sits, this is funny, my seat number is 69. She sits in 69. My first district number was 66. Kathy Woolard was elected to District 6, and one day we were at a pride meeting at a race, and she had 6 and I had 66. I said, "Come here." I said, "We got it's on my wall in my office." I said, "Look, we are that." So I do know that they are well-tuned, even the Democrats. Please don't delude yourself into believing that Democrats are accepting. Okay, they are not. When I was first elected, Democrats are the biggest haters out there too. no, I'm telling, if the Democrats were in the audience, they were just as rude to me, just as, just as unaccepting as they possibly could be. They were just as afraid, how's that? Just as afraid of me as the Republicans were. I've served under 5 speakers, 3 governors, so I've seen a lot of changes in the state. And I can say unequivocally that they're equal opportunity people out there. So don't think that a party is the difference here. It's just, more than anything, I think it's fear. It's just lack of knowing someone. I've had lots of people tell me, Democrats and Republicans, we don't know any gay people in my district. You know what I tell them? My job is to find them for you. That's what I try to do, is find as many gay people as I possibly can and let them meet you. I fought the marriage fight in 2004. That was, that was hard. That was very, very hard. And even in 1996, Georgia passed, was one of the first states that passed the statutory provision that said that marriage was between a man and a woman. There were only 6 no votes in 1996. Nobody spoke against it. In 2004, we beat it the first time around. It passed the Senate, it came to the House, we beat it. And it was the Speaker of the House, who was a Democrat, who went into the Rules Committee and asked for the bill to be brought back out again. On that election cycle in 2004, the House lost 29 seats, 29 Democratic seats. So that's the year that we watched the whole state shift over because of a marriage amendment. So when I say it's equal opportunity, it really was. But the fact that we beat it one time was huge. There were 38 speakers, 18 of them spoke against the bill. So that was progress. That was progress. To have a president come out, literally and figuratively come out and say he was supporting same-sex marriage was huge. Now, every huge step forward has backlash. So there will be backlash attached to that, especially in the southern states where we have 3 things. We have religion, region, race, and then we have Republicans. So we have 4 things going for us in the South that most of my northern counterparts, out gay electeds, when I told them that after 10 years, I was at Harvard, or at Cambridge class a couple weeks ago, and I told them this was my first time, and they're like, why? What is wrong with you? I said, well, you live in California. You live in Maine. You don't live in Georgia. So we have a lot of work to do in the state. But I don't want you to think for a second that we won't pay the price for this monumental step forward with same-sex marriage. Hey, Pastor, how are you? It worries me, and I'm sure we have Democrats and Republicans in the room here. It does worry me what would happen if Romney ends up winning. What will happen to the movement that we're all a part of. One thing that really warms my heart today is all these parents that are here. I know it's a parents' crew, but my goodness. I wonder if my father was still alive, if I could get him to sit into this. I know I couldn't get my mother in here. It's been very hard for her to, when I was first elected and I was in the New York Times, and somebody put on her front porch, I lost Dr. Drenner. I'm a lesbian legislator, so was a lesbian legislator for title, and she called me and she said, "Would you please keep your shit down in Georgia?" I said, "Well, that's not my shit. The New York Times is not my shit. I do not put that on your doorstep." So I've seen her shift somewhat, but I'm not so sure if I would see her shifting as much as many of the parents that are in this room today. So one of the things I think I've not answered yet, I've kind of segued around a lot of issues, is does being gay really limit you? And I would tell you that nothing limits you but you. You are the only thing that limits you. You can be whoever or whatever it is that you want to be in this world. Remember, I got a D in geometry. I have an undergraduate degree in radiation physics. I have a master's in business, a master's in environmental science, a PhD in public policy analysis, and a PhD in occupational safety and health. When I went to my 30-year advisory I did on purpose, so I didn't want you to hear what that number was. But when I went to my high school class reunion last year, you know what? They're like, "You? you did all this? Damn straight, damn gay I did." Sure I did. Then I wake up one morning and my mother said, "You know, you need to go out and be a legislator." She didn't say that. She just said, "Just get a C, honey, okay?" My dad said, "Can I see your diploma? I want to make sure it's real." Now, I say these things, it does sound a little hurtful, doesn't it? But if you knew me, you would believe the reason why they were saying those things. I was not an academic genius. I just grew up. You know, I grew up and decided that these were the things that were important to me. Despite the fact that I'm gay, I don't see that as a disability anymore. I used to think I needed a disability sticker on my car so I could have special parking. Now I don't believe that's true. Even in Georgia. I don't think you have to be ashamed. I think that you just be who God made you to be and make no apologies for that. That's the way I feel in my heart of hearts. And that's the way I act wherever I am. I represent a minority seat. I've been in lots of African American churches where they love to talk about homosexuality with me in the audience. And then they let me speak. And, you know, it would be interesting to take them to task, wouldn't it? But I don't do that. There's no reason, from my perspective, to challenge someone's core beliefs. I don't do that. The way that I approach the morality issue that I've been confronted with is I'm just me. I'm just me. I don't say your God's wrong and my God's right. You know what I just say? Hi, how are you? That's it. I never go head to head with them about God. No matter how insulting they are to me. That gets me nowhere. I don't think it... My big thing is that I'm not going to let them take God away from me. That's what they want to do. They want to take God and use it as a weapon against me. And I won't let that happen. Look, I have a cross on. Frequently they're like, "Oh my God, she's got a cross on." So it keeps away the vampires. I think it's important. I tell gay people all the time, go back to church. Go back to the church. Feel God's love. Don't let people take God's love from you. And every opportunity, my prayer has always been that God would send me most needed, where I was most needed, and then I cuss up a storm about where the hell I end up. Sitting right next to these God-loving people. My first seat in the Georgia General Assembly was right next to the most conservative minister in the House. And I sat down and I looked and I thought, and I said to the pastor, who do you think God wants to change, me or you? He said, I don't know, Dr. Drenner. But my humor, you know, I use humor as well, as you can tell. I use humor a lot. And that sometimes things get way too serious. And I think this is what I want to conclude with, because this was, I'll go back to the 70 sponsors and the bill. Yeah, I'll tell them that. She bosses me around all the time. She doesn't beat me running, though. So, 10 years, when you introduce a piece of legislation like this, as an introvert, I want you to know that I had to talk to everybody individually, okay? So when you're working the bill, there's 180 members. I had to talk to Ed, I had to talk to you, and I had to talk to you. Would you sign it, and would you sign it? So I had to repeat myself over and over and over again, answer any questions, blah, 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 blah. All right, 71 people, and the goal was 50, so I got 71, and finally was tired. I'm like, okay, I'm tired. It takes 91 to pass the vote. Okay, so it goes to late in the last session, not this past year, but the year before, 3 days left. A lot of people were upset that I was doing it, and so late in the year, because that gives the right wing the opportunity to work on the bill all summer long. I'm like, well, I don't care. Yeah, they're going to work on the bill no matter what. So let's just get it out there. So last session, bill comes up, and there are conservatives. You know what? They do believe in gay rights. And some of them do live in Georgia. So the lead sponsors of the bill, aside from myself, were two Republicans, chairman of Judiciary and a party switcher Republican that lives in DeKalb County. And there are a lot of those here, party switchers. So he signed the bill, went to his subcommittee. We had a hearing. Well, the first hearing, somehow the bill got shifted into the most conservative subcommittee in the Judiciary Committee. And I mean really, really pastors on, non-lawyers, pastors on this one. And that didn't bode well for us. The other subcommittee chairman was third signer on the bill, and I knew that we had a better opportunity, right? So when the chairman of the Judiciary, the big committee shifted the bill over, I thought, oh my God, this is not good. So we showed up, and we were like last on the agenda, and the chairman said, we have limited time. That's signal for we don't want to hear all your crap, okay? We limited time, and so therefore, you need to limit the number of speakers that you're going to have, okay? So Georgia Equality is working with me on the bill, and so we're like, okay, we've got an attorney, we've got somebody from an HR department, and then we've got the GSAs from across Georgia that have signed letters, and we're going to let them testify. And then the other side was going to testify. Now, I'm telling you the truth. Miss Diddy, you know, we sing a little ditty. This lady's name is Miss Diddy. Miss Diddy and Miss Dadweiler from Concerned Women of America testified. Miss Diddy said that she brought in a thoroughly researched, scientifically peer-reviewed document from the defrocked Dr. Paul Cameron. Do any of you all follow the Family Research Council crap? He got kicked out of the Psychological Association for his obscure methodologies. They brought this in as their evidence that sexual orientation has 26 definitions. And of those 26 definitions, one is pedophilia, one is necrophilia, and there's so many ilias I never even heard of them. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this. And they didn't hand this stuff out to the general, so I couldn't get a copy of it, but they handed it out to all the people on the subcommittee. Right here's all their documents. And I'm like, get a copy of that. Let's read what this crap says. Because when they do their peer review stuff, there's no peer review. You know, in academic journals, things have to be peer reviewed. There was no peer review process whatsoever. So Ms. Denny says, you know, there's 26 definitions of this, and so therefore, we don't need sexual orientation in the law because who knows what we're going to legalize. And then next, she said, she was in the bathroom. She went to the bathroom. While she was in the bathroom, she heard a deep voice. And she came out. She came out. And there she saw was a man dressed as a woman. And she was panicked. Now this is, if any of you have done any research, this is really what they're using as a way not to put gender identity in the law, is something called bathroom panic. And so Ms. Denny actually made up this story about she was in the bathroom and she was panicked because there was a woman or man dressed like a woman in there, and she had to hurry and run out of the bathroom because she was afraid. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, they believe this stuff. They believe this stuff. And so the chairman said to me, is there any concluding remarks, Representative Drenner, that you would like to say? And I prayed at that moment, please God, don't let me say anything rude, right? Because then you lose credibility. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. And so I shouldn't have said anything, but I could not. I could not. And I apologize for it now. So I went back up to the table and sat down, and I said, Ms. Denny, I just want to say thank you very much for your testimony. And I would like to have a copy of that thoroughly thought out research study that you presented to the committee. And of course, I honor all of your religious viewpoints here and would never want to make any remarks to the contrary. However, I think true bathroom panic is when you get up and there's no toilet paper. They did not think that was funny. And so I got up afterwards and I turned around to Kathy Lord and I said, I'm so sorry. I should not have said that. And so one of the right-wing women were behind me. She said, well, if you were so sorry, you should go apologize to Miss Denny. And I said, you know what, I will. I will go apologize to Miss Denny. So Miss Denny is protected out in the hallway. She has an entourage of protectors because I am very fierce, right? And I am extremely mean. All 5'4" of me, right? And so I walked over to her and I said, Miss Denny, I said, I am so sorry if you took my remark disparagingly. I really did not mean it like that. And then I touched her arm. You would have thought that my hand was on fire because she jumped back like that. And the rest of them were looking at me like, oh my God, you touched her! You touched her! And then I leaned over to her and I put my arm around her. I tried to put my arm around her. And I said, Miss Denny, you know what? I know we don't agree with it on this issue, but maybe moving forward we could work together on something. They did not know what to do. Not only did I touch her, I apologized, and then I extended the offer to work with her on something else. So they scurried down the hallway very quickly, looking back in fear, wondering if I was going to be following them, touching them all. That was not the case. So the Bill died a very sad and sorry death after that. And I would just say that I learned this my first year in the legislature. All good ideas take 10 years. Okay, well, I've been working on renewable energy for 12 years. It's still been a good idea. A bill like this is really about generating the conversation. It may never pass in my lifetime. I hope that's not true, but it could pass. Okay, let me say this truthfully. Not as long as Governor Deal is governor of the state of Georgia, in my opinion, because if you remember, Governor Deal actually ran the anti-gay campaign against Karen Handel. So I can't see, it may pass the House. We may be able to move it past the House. There are some, if this is not an oxymoron, there are some progressive Republicans in the House that will vote for it. So I can't see it moving that far. Moving to the Senate is a totally different issue. I've not had 12 years of trying to make friends over there, but I have made as close as politicians can be in terms of friends. I have 12 years of familiarness in the General Assembly on the House side. If I were you, any of you, 15, 16, 17, 18, this is what I would say to you: dream big. Dream big. Don't leave your state, because your state needs you. There may not be any hope, but you're not hopeless, because whatever it is that you want to do, you can still be. For all the parents that are here today, from my heart, I say thank you. Thank you for loving your children. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday afternoon. You're not my mother, and you're not my dad, but it means a lot to me to see you here, more than you know. And with that, I will
open it up for questions.
Open it up for questions.
Just raise your hand, and then let Representative Drenner just ask you questions. Anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you're interested in talking about your own family and being a mom and
sure,
what that's like for you and how your kids are doing.
Okay. Many of you may or may not know that I have 2 children. They're both 16. That should tell you. That should tell you. They're both 16. Don't you feel sorry for me now? I'm in the General Assembly and have 2 16-year-olds. They're 4 months apart. They're both adopted. My son came from Russia, and my daughter was biological of my first partner. One does really well, and one hopes to do well. I think for them, it's been an interesting journey. I won't speak for them, but I will share with you that having an out mom publicly was probably hard for them in their earlier years. More so for my son, because I remember when he was in 3rd grade, he was afraid to look at another little boy if they were in the bathroom, because he thought that if you looked at somebody peeing, that meant you were gay. So I think he probably struggled a lot more so than she did. We're fortunate that we live in DeKalb County, and they go to the city schools of Decatur, which were much more, have much more same-sex parents than any place else. The trials and tribulations of teenagehood is the same across the board, I'm sure, in terms of struggles with boys and girls and puberty and homework and driving. We'll pass a law next year that say that the Drenner kids cannot officially drive until they're 41 because they want cars, you know. So being a mom has, I brought them down to the Capitol a lot, not as props, but really more as a human way to let people see that I was a mother. I think that had a tremendous influence on many of my conservative colleagues because they got the fact that I love my kids too. One of the big fears early on, I'm not saying that it's been resolved by any stretch of the imagination. Next year the Republicans will be in supermajority, so anything's possible, was the fact that they would ban same-sex adoption here in the state of Georgia. My daughter has this innate ability of finding the most conservative people in the house and going and talking to them. When she was younger, she usually would end up on the other side. I'm not sure how she managed over there, but I let them page early on. You know, they were 3 when I was first elected, so they were down pushing buttons a lot. And so they got to see me, you know, hey, come here, come on, we got to go change your diaper. Hey, come on, we got to go potty. You know, being just a real person. And I think that made a big difference in many of their opinions.
And the other thing that I think what she's getting at.
She does this in class too. I bring her to class. She teaches too.
Speak onto the point of how you've raised them to be aware that they have gay parents and how the social issues may affect them, because I think it's a very conscientious part that you've done as a parent from a very young age with these.
Yes, that's true. Early on, we made a point of making sure that they understood that they had 2 moms. And if you go back and you read some of, like I was doing this past week, I was looking at some of their old artwork and stuff. And, you know, I love my 2 moms, you know. So they knew early on who their parents were. It always, again, back to my son again, it always amused me about him because he's a right-wing conservative. I asked him one day, we had a church scene set up in the house, you know, for Christmas, and I like churches, obviously, you know, you should pick that up about me. And I said, which church in here would allow same-sex marriage? He said, none of them, Mom, it's illegal. So they're very tuned in to issues. You know, they were around during the flag fight. You know, my daughter, I asked her about what flag should we fly over the state capitol, and she said, well, me, a picture of me. And I thought that was pretty profound for like a 4-year-old, because really that's really what it was all about, was a picture of me up on the Capitol. So they're very socially conscious kids. You know, we brought them up to watch the news, be tuned in to people like me, because it's people like me that make it, you know, that control a lot of things that go on in the world. And they refuse to campaign anymore, though. Money does not encourage, I can't bribe them enough to stuff a bag, hammer a yard sign, or any of that stuff. So they've done a lot of that. Now they're very encouraging. You want to run for Congress? Oh, God, Mom, do it. Do it, do it. I'm actually Mama, so yeah, Mama, that'd be great. You'd be good at that. But really, they're all caught up in their own, you know, Sally said this, and I need to wear the hat, and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about some positive experiences, perhaps some surprises that you had with people more conservative, folks that you might have expected not to be as supportive as they were?
Oh, sure. That's a good question. Thank you. A couple of years ago, there was a conservative guy that sits in front of me, and he's now chairman of appropriations, and never really talked to me. Never, you know, I'm always cordial. Hi, how are you today? And he came up to me one day, and I was sitting at my desk, and he said, can I have a moment with you? And I said, sure. He said, well, let's go over here. And I thought, oh, okay. So we walked over here, and I said, yes. He said, I want to apologize. I said, for what? He said, well, he said, I knew who you were coming in, and I just want you to know that I think that you are a wonderful person, very, very smart, and if I can ever do anything to help me, let me know. So that to me was an unusual surprise. The former speaker, Mark Burkhalter, sent me a letter one time and told me, you know, I watched you the whole day with your children, and I think you're a really good mom, and I'm glad that you're in the house. So there are good things that have happened for me and to me over the course of the last.
About that the pastor this last year.
I don't know. I don't remember the pastor.
His nephew?
Howie what?
His nephew?
No. I'm drawing a blank on that one.
Can I just say, this is really like a policy question, I guess, but you were talking about adoption, gay adoption. Well, my daughter and her partner, my daughter had a child, and then she wanted her partner to adopt her, and so that they were told that only in Fulton and DeKalb.
Yes.
And
Pretty
so
much.
they were living in Gwinnett, and they moved temporarily, well, for 9 months or so, into Fulton. So that is still true, huh?
That's true. Most of the judges don't advertise that. They the luck of the draw if you get that particular
Right.
judge, because not all of them operate under the same
That
rules.
attorney told them afterward then, she said, now don't be issuing press releases on this.
Right.
She said, because
Right.
if those boys down at the legislature know too much about it, it might all be gone.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's definitely a true story.
But that birth certificate, they got a new birth certificate, you know, and it just says parent.
That's wonderful.
That's right, they love it.
We'll take one last question, then we'll break for a question.
I don't
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a question, but I want to thank you for speaking today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Emily.